Same thing.
What's up, all you motorcycle enthusiasts, and welcome to the V-Twin Life here on YouTube. We talk motorcycles powered by those V-Twins, what fuels their passion, why you enjoy it so much. V-Twin Life is brought to you by these two great companies, Crash Inc. Clothing and Wild Ass Seats. Hey, you want to add some comfort to your ass when you're out riding, whether you're a 400-mile guy or maybe a guy that's pushing 1,000 plus, or female rider for that matter? Hey, check out wild-ass.com and add some comfort to your ass. Can't forget Crash Inc. Clothing, that Northwest brand out of the Pacific Northwest. Hey, these guys got a lot of great stuff, from t-shirts to hats, raincoats, you name it. Hey, they can get you covered. Check out crashinclothing.com. Now, let's dive into another milepost of the V-Twin Life.
Hey, second time's a charm.
It's me. I make all things run poorly.
There we go. What's up, everybody? Hey, welcome back to another milepost of the V-Twin Life. Like it says, we're all about talking motorcycles, why we enjoy it so much, and the fun we have riding. And figure, he's been around for a while. I became a pretty big fan of his channel. The monkey does a lot of riding in a great place where he gets the weather. So I figured, hey, why not, shoot him a message and get his background of why he fell in love with life on two wheels. So, hey, welcome to the show there, Mr. Professional Monkey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for, taking time and with your schedule. I know you seem pretty busy with your job. I've following along, and you do a lot of traveling and always on the go. So, thank you for coming and hanging out.
Oh, anytime, man. It's the travel hasn't been as much these last 2 years. That's kind of slowed down quite a bit, but I left the country for the first time in December. Last year I went to Argentina, and the funny thing is, when I was doing these videos and having a lot of fun doing it, I kind of thought to myself, wow, when I start traveling, people really get a kick out of that. They're gonna love that, because you see me, this dumbass, I go to far off places. I go to Asia a lot and stuff, and I thought, well, I'll do videos when I travel. People really be into that. I went to Argentina and no one could give a shit. They were like the worst videos I ever did, and that was like tango dancers and shots in a bar. I was like, never mind, I just won't do that anymore, but it was pretty funny.
So actually, here's one question I thought the other day. When you do this international travel, you're in some of these other places, do you ever get a chance to, like rent a bike, kind of explore, or you work tend to keep you too busy to get out and explore some of those countrysides that you get to travel to?
I'd like to. I'm trying to figure out how in the future I can do that, because my travel's for work. And so when I get there, I'm pretty much on a schedule from the time I land to the time I leave. I've never built in extra time at all. And maybe moving forward, I'll build in a day, and I'll try and figure out to get a bike. There's also that like ballsy factor of, Vietnam. I'm not going to try and ride a Harley in Vietnam. Their bikes are all the size of the back of my hand, and they know how it works. They're like an anthill over there, and I would just go through an intersection and kill 12 people. Just taking a bunch of bikes. So there's that sort of like, how gutsy are you? I would try it in certain countries, but a lot of my trips are to places that are less developed, we'll just say. So
Okay.
they're a little like not so much, like that I would get on a bike there, but it's tempting.
Yeah. So where motorcycles come into life for you? What got you going on two wheels?
It's my dad's fault. I can never in my life remember a time that my father didn't have a motorcycle until I grew up and I had one, and then he didn't for a while. Like, other than that, my entire childhood, there was just a sea of motorcycles in the garage. So my dad, after he got home from Vietnam, went in the construction business. And then after a little while, somehow he went into the insurance bit, one of those guys back from war trying to figure out who he is and what he's going to do. And he ended up in the car business. And a side effect of being in the car business is you end up people trading stuff in on cars, and it would be sometimes a motorcycle, and he would just buy it. So we would often have a couple bikes in the garage. Not all of them nice. Some of them really crappy old $300 Japanese bikes that he would pick up and then maybe fix one thing. tweak this there and then sell it on and maybe, a little side money, that kind of thing,
Mhm.
buying these bikes because a car dealer doesn't want it. A car dealer in does not want a 1975 CB750. You or I are be like, yeah, I'd like to have that as a toy, but they don't
I
want
got
it.
one in my
That's just a
garage.
pain on the books. I don't want to deal with it. And my dad would come along and say, well, I know we gave him $500 for it. I'll give you the 500 back. And the dealer's like, done, get it out of here. So a lot of old Japanese bikes were bought that way. And then it was in the early mid 80s that he finally went all in and bought his first Harley. And it was a Sportster, Sportster 1200. And I remember that bike in a lot of my childhood. I remember going to Doc's Harley Davidson in St. Louis. At the time was a cinder block building back before they became Gucci. You know what I mean? And when they were just these crappy old shacks that you would buy your stuff at. And I remember going into Doc's and the parts would be on the floor and on the wall. And they were all like a piece of chrome, like shrink wrapped to a piece of cardboard. And the cardboard was white, and I can remember vividly, but they were printed on an orange. It would have like the barn shield on it and a part number. And then you would think this is the right part for the bike. And then you'd go up to the counter and they would check and go, yeah, that fits that bike. And it could be a chrome battery cover or whatever. And then we'd go home and we would put that part on Dad's old Sporty. And then I remember the excitement of him putting a deposit on the new Sportster that was coming out. Someone will correct me. Either 89 or 90, the Sportster got A, belt drive, and B, a fifth gear, because ours was a 4-speed chain drive. And he put a deposit. It was during the 2-year waiting list. And then his buddy, he got to be really tight with the guy who owned the dealership. And he called him and said, hey, we had a dude that had a 1200 Sporty on order, and he came in and he couldn't get his financing order or something in order or something like that. So he said, if you want a red one, you can have a red one. Dad ordered black. And Dad was like, I'll take it if it's pink. So I was away 2 years, And I remember it was ruby red, and we called it Ruby. It was a metallic dark red, real pretty color. They made all the bikes the same colors back then. You could get like ruby red on anything. And that's the one we took to Sturgis for the first time. Or was it? Anyway, so I'm trying to think if we asked about the black one first time. But that's the one I remember the most. We put a lot of miles on that ruby red Sportster 1200, and we're wrenching on it every weekend, adding some little chrome bit somewhere, going on a hog ride, going to a hog rally, taking it to Sturgis, going to some little rally in Missouri, something like that. And that was the bike that I basically grew up with, was that ruby red Sporty. And then I got my own bike for the first time. I started on a CB750, and then I had a Honda Shadow, and then I said, well, I only got so much money. I'll buy a crotch rocket, because that was like, you could buy what was considered a cool crotch rocket for a lot less money than you could the most basic Harley. You know what I mean? Like $6,000 bought a YZF 600R, years ago. Maybe it's $5,000 years ago.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Which was a great little bike. But I couldn't even buy a used 883 for that, at that time, Sporty. So I rode Jap bikes, and then I graduated to the R1, and then I had a Roadstar Warrior, and then I had what the hell else I had? A couple other things, and then finally I bought my first Harley in 2004. And other than my Indian debacle of 2016, where I tried to be an Indian owner for 18 months, that's it. I'm Harley Davidson. That's it.
I was always a fan of the Roadstar Warrior. For a while, I really wanted to pick one up. I just had that, that muscle look, and those Roadstars, man, you get a good set of pipes on them. They sounded impressive.
That was a great bike. My wife and I were talking about this today. Mrs. Monkey was on the channel all the time. We had this discussion today where I think there's a level of Harley Davidson loyalty where you don't even say, that sucks, this sucks, everything's not a Harley sucks. I think that's like mid-level Harley loyalty. When you go all in, you just sort of go, other bikes are fine. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, they're not for me. I'm not going to own it. I'm a Harley guy. That's all I'm ever going to own. But you're not going to talk down on anything else. The Roadstar Warrior is a freaking fantastic motorcycle. It handles like hell. It's brutally powerful. It's got a great sound. It's a good bike. Like, I get dudes all the time, young dudes, message me and go, would I be made fun of if I bought a Roadstar? And I'm like, not by me. They're cool. Get one. Like, they're a good deal, Although prices up are on them now. I mean, a good Warrior in good shape. Have I seen them for less than 10? I mean, like they're all the money, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, even some of the old Roadstars. Yeah, I know my middle son. He's been eyeballing them, and he'll get messages from him. Hey, check this! I found this one on Facebook Marketplace. And man, they're great bikes. And same way. It's like we all ride. We all want to enjoy the road. Just sure, some guys are going to want a Harley. Hey, I want this, I want that. But there's also that thing of living within your means. If you can't afford that right now, but you can. Hey, I found a great deal on this Vulcan, or like we're talking this Roadstar. Hey, there's nothing wrong getting it. You enjoy the road. Down the road, hey, things turn around. You can get the the bike you want, but so many people, whether it's your first, second bike, it's not always going to be your dream bike. But get what you can, enjoy the road, and you live within the means of it.
Exactly, and I was just thinking the other day how I saw a video on this, and I cannot remember what channel it is, and I feel bad because it was I don't think it was Jix or Fu. I can't remember who it was. They did a whole video on the death of the power bike, the power cruiser, because that was kind of a golden age. That early 2000, you had the Roadstar Warrior, then you had the Kawasaki the Vulcan 2000, the Kawasaki Mean Streak, the you know what I mean? Like you had all these bikes. The VTX first came out. It was a really great time to be a young rider because there were a lot of badass, super powerful Japanese cruisers out there that you could buy and didn't have to feel like less of a man for riding down the road because it wasn't a Harley, because
Yeah, look at like the Suzuki Boulevard, the M109. God, that
M109 was another one, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they were just brutally powerful. We had 110 pounds of torque, brand new, for thousands less than a Harley that didn't have as much power at the time. So,
yeah, and came with the factory. I think like a 240 rear tire. God, it was fat.
Mm-hmm. They're badass bikes, and
oh yeah,
and you could even, they were fairly simple. So like my Warrior, I remember taking the license plate mount under the fender and taking it off and lobbing off the end, turning it sideways and bolting it up to the swing arm and converting it to a side mount, a swing arm mount license plate. And then it was even able to retain the lights that came with it. Like it was such a simple design that you could kind of do little, chopper-esque kind of moves on it for nothing. If you had a vise, a hammer, and weren't afraid to cut something and could, splice wires back together, you could do some cool stuff. And Kuryakin used to make lights that had the same thread pattern. So you could lob off the big, ugly turn signals and actually thread them into the fender stays. And you could do all kinds of really cool stuff on those bikes for very little money. When I sold, mine was cerulean silver with flames. Like I can remember the name of the color. It was dark gray with the silver flames. And when I sold it, the guy who bought it, he bought it for his son. He's like, "So are you a chopper builder or something?" And I was just like, "No, I'm a dumb shit with a vise, like a tin snips." Like, because he's seen all the stuff I've done to the bike. I'm like, "No, man, just grow a pair and make it awesome."
Yeah. Spend the time making yours, do the little things. I mean, I did that. I used to have a Suzuki Boulevard, and I took off the big bulky turn signals and went with the small little, actually, I think they were Kuryakin, the red bullets. Put the bullets on the back of it. And oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, for getting into a bike, the Boulevard series was very affordable. And I think a lot of it, like, the C50, C90, I think part of it, they kept their cost down. The fenders were plastic. Kind of did some things that kind of keep price down and made the bikes very affordable, but fuck, it ran great. I put a ton of miles on it.
You got to be careful with some of the excessive plastic. A guy emailed me the other day saying, "Hey, I think I'm going to buy a Honda Fury." And I said, "Look, you do you, boo-boo. You buy whatever bike you want." I'm like, "But that bike's plastic factor is a whole lot higher than the Yamaha Raider." Like the Yamaha Raider doesn't have plastic valve covers on the motor. The Honda Fury has a plastic motor. The valve covers are plastic on the top of the motor, and the fenders are, of course. And I'm like, they're going after the same thing. And I told him, I said, "Look, I don't know what the price difference is. I'm just letting you know that don't just go buy one of them things. Go look at the Yamaha, because it had I think the Yamaha had it's a 113 motor or something like, and it's just a much better built bike if that's what you're after. Even if it's 20% more, like buy that Raider. Don't buy the Fury."
Yeah. And yeah, get the style you want. I mean, for me, they were cool, but I enjoyed more getting out to, touring and traveling. That's what I would, went with I had the C50, but then I basically turned it into the T model, bought bags, the windshield, and, kind of set it up for, weekend trips and enjoying it. Cause for me, that's what I enjoy. My dad's one of my best riding partners, and, we enjoy doing, the weekend getaways when we can. And, now my boys are planning on it, and it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. The C50, was that not the same? They used to call it the Volusia, or was that a different bike?
Yeah. No, that was the Volusia. Then I think it was 04. They rebranded it, and then that's when they went to the Boulevard lineup. You had, what was it, the S lineup, the C, and the M.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, the C50 was that 805. Then you had the 90 was the 1500.
A good friend of ours had a Volusia, and we used to do the maintenance on her bike sometimes from time to time. And I remember thinking, like, what a damn good bike. Because I remember what she didn't pay much for it, and it was perfect. It was the most reliable bike in our crowd, and she had like nothing in it. Like it was great. So, Brian,
there was some cheap, free little mods you could do. That like I said, if you're not afraid to break out the drill bit, what they called the Mickey, drill out the baffles, and you put 5 half-inch holes down through the backing plate of the exhaust, and you could get down to the baffle. It actually opened up the sound a little bit. And there were some, there's so many different form boards you could get on and do, some little bit more. I mean, it wasn't going to make an astronomical amount of horsepower difference, but you can get a little bit more sound out of it than spending the money for new pipes and everything else.
I remember the your dad rides too, and you grew up around him, so I know that the days of changing your exhaust aren't. I don't want to say they're not that old, because you did change your exhaust back in the 80s too, but knocking out baffles was something you did way more often than actually changing the pipes.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like that was, you would take I remember on all the Harley 80s, except for the touring bikes, they had they came out of the motor down, and they had 2 mufflers, and there was that cross pipe that went right in front of the middle of the motor. Ugliest thing on earth if you look at it today, but it was kind of the original idea of scavenging. You connected the 2 head pipes, but you took the mufflers off, and a buddy held it while you took a piece of something, a pry bar or something, and you just freaking, because the baffles back then were just these like leaves that were bent out on the inside. It wasn't like a sleeve with all the stuff, and so you could just hammer them flat, and then you had a straight pipe, and most bikes were rolling around with stock pipes on them with just the baffles knocked out for most of my childhood. At least you didn't start changing pipes out unless you had a bunch of money, then you could change the pipes. And then it was only like there were like 3 companies that made pipes back then. It wasn't like today where there's seems like there's hundreds of them.
Oh, I know. It's the amount of them today is insane. Yeah, it was. I mean, I can remember taking, I think it was like a masonry bit actually used, because I got one that was 24 inches long, so I can go all the way down through the pipe, and did the old Mickey baffle on the old Suzuki, and it worked great. And then I ended up getting a set of Cobra slash cuts for Christmas from my sister-in-law, because her husband had the bike but then got rid of it, but they still had the pipes in the garage. She's like, "Here, Merry Christmas." I'm like, fucking awesome.
That's cool. They're talking about the STs inside. I'd like to really get my hands on one of those, because I have a couple of theories on those new ST bikes, the Street Glide and the Road Glide ST. So when they say, it's a lifted suspension for better turn angles, I only because I'm always skeptical of marketing, right? So whenever I see something, I'm like, how did they do this? What was the thing? And I'm like, did they just take Ultra Shocks and put it on there, and that lifted it an inch? Because the Ultra Limited shocks are 1 inch longer than the regular Road Glide and Street Glide shocks, and they ride higher for the extra weight. And I'm like, is that what they really did? Like they just put the longer shocks on it, lifted an inch, and go for performance and lean angle. Like I'm just curious if that's what that was there. And the 117 motor. Yeah.
And then, the talk, you're watching the video, and they're talking about, the upgrade Olin suspension, they could come with this. And, me and Brian, when we were talking about last week, you got to go through the catalog. Well, that's actually an option. But the way they present it was more like, these are going to come this way. But, not so much the case.
Yeah. They have the 117, and they have a 1 inch taller shock. I think that's and and a lot of the styling, but I mean the 117. The funny thing is, I think if you had a 114, if someone went to a dealer and paid to have a 117 kit put in their bike, they would be insane. Like why would you do that? Like the 117 to a 114, it's really nominal, the difference between the two. There's not a lot of difference there in power and torque. You just put a 124, 128, 130, whatever, but not, anyway. A road glide, that's T-Billboard, isn't it?
I think it all depends, how far do you want to go down that rabbit hole? How deep is your pockets for what you want to get?
For me, it's all about stage 2, I think. I don't think it's about changing out cylinders. It's
no, because go ahead.
I would just say, like, the you get more power that way. I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all. It does, but for me, someone who is not made of money, I would get what's going to give me the most power per dollar investment. And while it's still not cheap, stage 2 is where it's at. Put an ice cam in it, a good tune on it, and you're going to get lots more power and torque for your $1,500 to $2,000, investment versus thousands of dollars to get another 10%. Like it's just to me, it's not worth it. But
well, and my thoughts of I agree exactly what you're saying, but I also want to look at the part of longevity. You start going bigger and bigger, and then you start boring out cylinders and all this. You're going to take some of the longevity out of the motor. Where I'm right with you. Go with a stage 2, healthy cam, good, whether you a nice set of slip-ons, a good tune intake, and ride it all the time, and pay attention to your maintenance. Keep up on the your oil changes. Just pay attention to your maintenance, and that bike's going to treat you good. But you start going above and beyond, well, then, you might not have that thing around as long. But hey, that's my opinion. There's other people that want it.
Pistons are just rattling around inside there. Like you kind of lost some performance after a while when they're just slapping the sides of the chugs like as it's running. Exactly. It's what Stetzer Pennant said that stage 2, Moonshine stage 2, puts out the same as his Harley Bill 131. And I'm curious. Like Setzer's bike, is it a Harley 131 kit off the shelf, their tuner, that, or is there what's going on in there? Because my best pal down here just ordered a brand new 22, not ordered, it's there, but he's putting a 131 in it before he even brings it home, and it's going to be all Harley 131, nothing aftermarket, because he's trying to do the whole preserve the warranty for 2 years thing. But I'm like, oh, cool. And when I went and looked it up, I'm like, he's talking like 120 horse and 130 pounds of torque, I think, in that kit. And the wife's bike is a 117, just tuned well with an SNS 475 cam in it, and the bike's like 120 horse and 123 pounds of torque. So, yes, it's a 117, but there's not much there. So for like $6 or $7 grand, you get 7 more pounds of torque. Like that, that just seems nuts to me, And
I agree.
One little dig at those kits. I haven't said this to Joe; he'll kill me. They still have a horsepower cam in them, so you can have that big motor build and all that stuff. And the bikes sound very quiet to me, very calm. They don't, because they typically have like Harley's exhaust on it, which never sounds as good as the tab like setup we put on the wife's bike, and with a good cam in it, the bike will have that good Evo lope and all that stuff, and you just don't get that. Those 131 motors sound slow even though they're fast, and to me you gotta have, I want some rumble. I want that thing to sound like it's gonna die any minute.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious to hear, because my dad's got a 19 Road Glide, and I mean the weather up here's been crappy, but he just put in a new cam in his, a set of Vance and Hines True Duals, new programmer, new intake, and had the whole thing done. But it's like he hasn't even had a chance to get it out and ride it. He's like started it in the garage. It sounded impressive, but he's yet to actually be able to get it and check it out firsthand, just because, unfortunately our weather up here in Washington just hasn't been rider friendly lately.
What cam did he put it in?
I don't remember which one.
I'm curious. Yeah, if you did the Harley one, they perform well, but they just don't have that sound. You have to go more aggressive. And there's something about Harley. Oh, you're texting him. And there's something about Harley. And there could be an EPA thing, and that's why the Harley cams sound like that. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. But it could be limitations of what they can do as an OEM manufacturer. Maybe, I don't know. So Lori's saying that the nostalgia bike, I'm sorry, that the what do they call it? Revival bike could be icon collection bike, could be a nostalgia softail. So like, are you thinking, Lori, they're just going to make like a deluxe and then call it part of a special collection? That'd be kind of funny. They just came out with like the all special something icon collection, and it's just a deluxe from like 2 years ago. But if it's
a little bit of rebadging.
If you did, in my opinion, a nostalgic bike, if you did a softail standard or softail custom, the bobtail fender, the skinny 21 up front, longer rake, like they killed that in 07, 08, something like that. They killed the old softail standard or custom. Bring that thing back, it'd be cool.
Yeah. And some of those, I don't know, you get to some of the heritage. I'm just not a big fan of some of the contos and whatnot, but I know my brother's building he's put a bunch of money into his heritage. He went with the whole cholo look.
Yeah.
The 21, he's got the big old Samson fishtails on it. I think it's loud as shit.
Mine is the first part of my new body conversion, which sounds like an after school special. Just came a couple days ago. So my 14 heritage is a stock 103 motor, stock cams and all that stuff, but I have the Cobra fishtails on it. I have a 21-inch fat spoke in the front and 18-inch fat spoke on the rear, and I have the new body here. Well, the tank anyway. Tank is here. Got new fenders coming, and it'll be pretty badass. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be hopefully the rest of the parts will be here this week, and then I can get it done by next week. So unlike a decent YouTube channel, there will be no dramatic waiting. I'll just do it and do a video on it that day. Like I watch channels sometimes and I'm like, they're so much better at this shit. They'll do a video and go, coming in 9 months, this reveal of this, and then little flashes and all this other sort of marketing stuff. Whereas I go, isn't this shit cool? Put it on the bike, done. I don't do any of that marketing promotional stuff about it. Whatever. But no,
I got something new. I don't want to wait.
What's that?
It's like, I got something new. I don't want to wait.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't like to do dramatic buildups. It's here. Isn't this cool? Riding is like a rocker C. No, riding with Sager. Google Harley Softail Standard, and that's what I'm talking about. That would be cool for them to bring back, but I don't know. Buffalo,
I think
you
they
said
ought
the
to bring
icon
back
bike, the Elvis bike. Isn't that what the revival was? That was basically the Elvis bike, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think they ought to bring back the electric glide standard. Because so many people that they want to do. I thought they went away from it.
No, it's still there.
Okay, I was wrong. I thought they got rid of it.
They brought it back in 20 or 20, and it's still there in 22. That was one of the bikes I saw. Did they get rid of that? Because I really like that bike. I think the electric glide standard is I want to do it. I'm a decent shade tree mechanic, and I'm going to do it on the weekends, and I'm going to do my own stuff. Then buy one. Those suckers are $300 cheaper, by the way, than a Road King. A Road King costs $300 more than electric glide standard, because the electric glide standard doesn't have a chrome motor, doesn't have a back
doesn't
seat,
have all the electronics in your fairing.
Right, it's just a fairing with gauges in it, but $300 cheaper with a fairing. To me, I think the electric glide's a great deal, and you just start building your own thing.
As my dad said, he went with a Woods cam.
Oh, those are good. That's what Blacked Out Bandit did. The Woods, they do their numbering differently.
Yeah.
So I think that his is WM8 222 or something is the one that Blacked Out put in his bike. And me, I'm I don't know what that means. I know 475, 468, that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. See, it's like mine. I got the 252 gear driven cams in my 88 when I went to the 95. Got the the slip-ons, tune, intake, and little bit. And you know what? I'm happy as hell with it. It does fine. And I've ridden the shit out of it.
Probably sounds good too.
It does. It's about time for some new mufflers, though. They're starting to show their wear, but I'd like to just go to the. I can't decide if I want to do the 2-into-1 or do the true duals, because for me, it's like with a bagger, it's just I like the dual exhaust. You know, it's just that look of the way it's been forever. And I know they say you get more performance, you go the 2-into-1, but it's like, man, I just don't know if I want to do it.
My wife is obsessed with symmetry. A bike must have 2 pipes or none in the back. Like it's got to be, for her, it's like I have a side pipe on my Ultra, a shorty turnout, and my bags and rear end is stretched, but no cutouts. It's a lobbed off straight cutout. The Advanblack 0, no cutouts. That's fine. But she's like 2-into-1s. Doesn't like it because it's only got a pipe on one side and it should have a pipe on both sides. But exactly what you just said. So
yeah,
hers has got to have 2. It's got to have dual, piping on the back. The one of them can be fake. So if you do a 2-into-1, she says you have to do a ghost pipe so that at least it's even. I'm like, I couldn't roll around with a fake exhaust pipe on my bike. I just at the heart of it, you have a fake exhaust pipe on your motorcycle. I can't do that,
Yeah, the dummy pipe under the left side.
Can't do it. No. I understand why you would. Can't do it.
Yeah. And then that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, I want to do it, but it's like, I don't know. Gonna have to wait and see.
I might go back to duals later. Like I'm redoing my Ultra also. I'm doing my Ultra and my softail at the same time. They're actually gonna match. See, I give things away. I don't care. They're actually gonna end up like matching the same color. And I have a 2-into-1 turnout on the Ultra. But I've thought about, ever since we put those pipes on the wife's bike, it sounds so good. She's got a tab 2-into-1 and a 2, their head pipe, and then 50 cal slip-ons with zombie baffles. And that bike sounds so good that I'm like, well, I'm going to do this bike now with what I've got coming, right? But I want to maybe do a rear end swap again in the future for dual cutouts and put the same pipe she's got, but only if I can do a cam at the same time and do my own stage 2. So it sounds right.
Yeah, that might not be bad.
Mm-hmm. But we'll see.
I like it here. Hide a nitrous bottle.
Yeah, right. That would work.
Heck yeah.
And then if that bottle wants to blow out, it'll actually eject straight behind you and you'll be fine. You'll be totally fine. The fireballs at the bike behind you.
Yeah. So now you also a guy that likes to get out and enjoy, traveling on 2 wheels, take off for a weekend trip or maybe even longer.
I have to plan my trips because of work and because our little one's only 9 years old. Oh, so when they're that little, and everyone in the side chat knows this, even though she's not a baby, it's still, they're at your side all the time. They're not old. She's not even old enough to stay alone by herself at home for a few hours. She's still with us all the time. And with the organization we're both a member of, the wife is a patch as well. It becomes real challenging. Like we take turns. Like we've got something coming up. She gets to go to that, and I don't because I stay with the little one unless my mother-in-law can watch her. It's just this whole thing because we are 60 miles from our next closest relative. So it's like that's a whole pain. But what we do is we plan the year out. So I've gone to Sturgis every year the last several years, and so that's a long time. I'm away from the house about 2 weeks. So I'm gone that time. I don't ride it because I have an RV, and even though people like to talk smack, if you own an RV, you'll take the RV. That's just how that works. You're not, no one's gonna be like, oh, screw that, I'm gonna ride and leave that thing that you make a payment on every month at home. That'd be just stupid. So you're gonna take the RV, and then when you get up there, you ride like crazy as long as you're there. So we may not ride up there, but we put on close to 2,000 miles in a week while we're there, and to do that in the Black Hills, where the average speed is like 45 miles an hour. Is a lot of riding all day, every day for 2 weeks, for a week. So,
well, and not having to wait in line for, a restroom or, hike for a shower and everything else when you got it right there. Dude, why not?
And when it's this year, it was damn near 100 degrees during Sturgis. So you get back to your we were talking about this last year, how much we love this rig, because you go out and you ride all day. You're sticky, you're dirty, you're just worn out, and you're pulling into the Buffalo Chip. Do I want to go to my rig that has air conditioning and a TV and Netflix and a bathroom and my own shower, or a tent where I'm still freaking hot and sweaty? There's nothing I can do about it, and you're just going to sit there with the dirt sticking to you, when you get off the bike. So I like my rig. It's great. Yeah. Dustin, does adding a heavy breather in a 103 add much power? No.
Yeah.
I mean, no. If you have a stock breather, adding anything that's not a stock breather does. Not a ton of power, but a little bit, but you got to tune it. But if you already have like a Screaming Eagle intake, and then you change it to a heavy breather, not zero, none. Like it's just, we had said that in the video before, and it's, I know it's hard to kind of get your head around, but it either is a performance intake or it isn't. It's not like, oh, this one's, it's so little. If you find one that's really like S&S has that new dual cone one. It's got like two cones that go into one, that go into the motor and a whole deal. That might be good for a horse, like maybe. That more than, but I don't know. You can't get one anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, but it looks cool,
Oh, it looks real. I want to put one on the wife's bike, but you can't. You can't get one. I mean, like you can't buy one. They've been out of stock. They came out. They were all sold out, and they've been gone for 6 months. You can't get one now.
See, I had a buddy. It wasn't not the S&S, but I don't remember what brand. Came down, he had the cone filter on and got stuck in a horrible rainstorm.
Oh,
and man, about killed his bike because he didn't have the sock for it, and it started taking all the water in. Yeah, it was a hell of a time.
Even with a sock, the water will get past that sock eventually.
Oh, yeah.
If you're in a bad enough storm. We were riding over to Fort Myers for a thing with one of the organization, and it was me and the missus, and Mrs. on her Heritage, and Olaf was leading on his Road Glide, and I was on the CVO stills before the wife stole it from me, and the CVO at that point still had its stock intake, and the stock CVO intake is that snorkel, it comes out, turns and goes forward, nice big cone right out front, and it rained so hard that we're rolling along and the bike, I'm actually the bike's starting to, die out on me. The stereo is changing stations because there's so much water rolling over the screen. Jesus. It thinks that someone's pressing buttons, and eventually the bad thing is there are no overpasses between here and Fort Myers. You're taking Alligator Alley, which is a divided 4-lane, 100 miles across the state. It's just, and there's just nothing. There's maybe a gas station, that kind of thing. And we found like the one overpass that was most of the way there. And we sat there laughing hysterically because I was just wearing like Ray-Ban glasses like I always do. Water's rolling into my eyeballs. I'm now completely blind. The bike's dying. The stereo's playing Christmas music or something like that because it was doing weird crap in the rain. Anyway, so.
Good times.
Yeah. Dustin, if you have a stock intake, then any kind of intake will do better, but you got to tune it. Maybe you change the intake.
It's like times like that. They suck at the moment, but in the end, the next day or even an hour later, the story and.
You're laughing hysterically like, well, we're still alive, Well,
I did that on a bike trip where I broke down at the base of the Cascade Mountains when my voltage regulator went out. Because I had about 2 weeks prior to that, my stator went out. And putting in a new stator, I called the dealership, say, well, you should replace your regulator and your stator. I'm like, hey, that regulator's working just fine. Yeah, but sometimes doing with fright, I'm like, oh, it'll be fine because they're not cheap.
Yeah.
Put the new stator in it, and me and my dad and 2 other buddies were taking off on a bike trip. And I made it about 200 miles from my house when all of a sudden we start climbing the Cascade Mountains and my volts drop and the battery light comes on. I'm like, shit. We pull off in this little town of Packwood. Dad, they find a little hardware store and the multimeter was fucking like $55. Mm-hmm. We get back there, start testing it, and sure as shit, that fucking new stator fried that regulator.
Mm-hmm.
Call Harley. Oh, we don't have one. I'm like, hey, you know what? I broke down on the side of the road. She's like, hey, hold on, let me, start looking. Well, they find one in Yakima, which is like 60 miles away. And, my buddy Dustin starts putting his helmet on. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm heading to Owens and go get that regulator. I'll be back in 4 hours. All right.
Relax.
I sat in the gas station parking lot, and my dad and his buddy like, well, you can watch the bikes. We're gonna go to the bar to the barbecue joint, and we're gonna go get something to eat. Yeah, I sat there, and the funny thing, I seen this guy go by in a dual sport. He had his rifle case on the side because that time it was elk season. He came back, he pulls in, he's like, you were here like 2.5 hours ago, and I rode by. I'm like, oh yeah. He's like, hey, well, you need anything? He goes, I got it. He had a Road King. He's like, I'll get parts off if you need. I'm like, no, buddy's going to get it. I said,
that's a good dude.
We'll be okay. Sat there talking to him for a while, and just sit there side of the gas station hanging out. But it sucked at the moment. But it's like, you know what? We repaired it because I take a small toolkit with me just for those type of reasons. I can turn wrenches and work my way around most things, and got it fixed. We ended up down in Oregon. About 5-6 hours later we planned, but it sucked at the moment. But you get going and you can laugh about it once you're back on the road, and it just adds part of the adventure and story to it.
Yeah. If everything goes right, something's wrong. You're sitting there going, what's coming? So what's coming around the corner? But yeah, that if he would have even gone and pulled the voltage regulator off his bike, your new stator would have fried that one too, I bet.
It might have.
When the stator goes, voltage regulator is right behind it. So it's like, just do it,
Yeah, but bite the bullet and spend the damn near $600 it would be for both of them.
Yeah. But the reality is.
But at least, I'm glad that I'd already did the stator, because there's no replacing a stator on the side of the road. At least the voltage regulator, they're down between the frame tubes, and you can.
It's a single plug and a couple screws, and you're kind of done, right? I mean,
yeah, I think the hardest part's actually chasing the wires back a battery along the frame rail and getting them all out of the clips. But yeah, 2 bolts and it comes out, and undo the clip, and then chase the wiring harness and get it back in place and set the new one on. But then again, it comes down to you got to have a little bit of tools with you. But it's like I got one saddlebag that's pretty much dedicated. My small toolkit, some cleaning stuff, rags and whatnot. Clothes go in the other one, and that's just how it goes.
So 515 Mustang says looking to put air ride on his Road Glide. What are your thoughts? This is an opinion. I firmly believe that air ride if you're talking about one of these high-end kits, in my experience and my perception of what I've seen, I'm always trying to say things about people having conniptions. Air ride is more about show than go. It's really about being able to, you put a center stand on your bikes, you can pull in, drop it down. It's that whole custom bagger thing. If you're actually looking to go for the ride of the bike, then insert name here. There's all these different great manufacturers of rear end shock. I run the Wilburs on both mine, and the wife has one on her CVO. They have 2 different sort of stages. Hers are this, I can't remember, it's called the 775, whatever. It's their sport shock that's on the CVO, and it's a billion times better than stock. On my Ultra, I run the Neva Mat system, which is their heavyweight thing, no fat jokes. But it's about a bike that has a tour pack and is loaded down, and you know what I mean? It's all about the softness and stuff. And what the Neva Mat does is when you get on the bike and you load it up, it drops down in the rear because that's just the sag of suspension. But as you ride, it bounces back up to level. So it re-levels the bike as you go. And it's fantastic. The Florida Turnpike, even though we pay ridiculous amounts of money to pay to hit potholes and stuff, I haven't done my front end yet, but the rear end, the bike doesn't shudder anymore. You know what I mean? It just takes the bump instead of I can hear my bags go ka-tunk, the whole ass of the bike.
Bottom out, you can hear it.
It doesn't, because it takes the job of taking that shock out of the hit. It really smooths it out. So I'm a huge fan of the Wilburs. We own 2 sets, and I'd never buy anything else, but there are people out there that are obsessed with other brands. But air ride is for show. If that's what you're after, then more power to you. If you want to do that whole center stand, drop down, yada yada thing, that's what you're after, then go for it. But if you just want to improve the ride of your bike, I'd go to a really good suspension system,
Yeah, and like you said, there's a ton of them out there. I mean, everybody has their preference, and I can think of 5 of the top name brands, and I think the price difference is $60 to $100 between all of them. They're all relatively close. It's just, you know, what one fits you, which one do you want, you know? These reviews, my friends had these, they had these, and hey, these seem to work good for people I know, then hey, go that route.
There's no bad choice is the point. I mean, like,
there's
like the Neva mats are several hundred more than the sport shocks that she runs, but that's the whole self-leveling thing. That shit's expensive, you know, like my left side shock is that big around. It's this massive system in there with valves and bladders and everything else. And the compression, as it bounces, it reuses that energy to stretch back out. There's just a ton of engineering in there. I've got friends that have Legends, love those. I have friends who swear by the Olean stuff. I have friends who swear by the Olean stuff you buy from Olean's, not the stuff you buy from Harley. I don't know, you know. I don't know if there's any damn difference, but that, you know, people talk. El Buffalo was on here earlier. He's got a shock company that is less expensive than all those options that he swears by, but I cannot remember the name of the damn thing. If he's still here, he can, you know, type that in. But there's a company that he loves that makes shocks that he runs. So,
well, there's one of the guys up here that I became great friends with, and I know on social media is Two Wheels to Survive. He found the Russ Wernemonts, and he freaking loves them.
Okay,
you know, I mean, Russ started his suspension career when it came with back in the Baja days with Ivan Ironman Stewart, and spent his whole life building shocks. Now here a few years back, he got into the motorcycle side of it, and they're right around, you know, competitive price with Legends, and they build them to your specs of what you want. And I think it's like a two week turnaround. You call them, say, hey, I want to get these, and they build them up and everything. I mean, fully adjustable, but they set them up for, you know, your size, your style of riding. So here you go, bolt them on. And
suspension
I know
technology.
Michael's rode them, loves them.
So evidently, suspension technology is the one that El Buffalo likes. Yeah, he's running those, I think, on his street glide. So, yeah, I think he said they're a lot. They're not a lot, but they're less expensive than others. It's tough when someone's nice enough to give you the suspension for your bike. You don't want to go try these; they're cheaper.
Yeah,
you're not gonna do that.
That's it. You know, it's like you said. There's a ton of companies. It's just, you know, maybe do your homework and figure out which one you think is going to work for you and go for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a way, it's like you can't say there's a bad one.
I can tell you this: the Wilbur's thing I thought was one of the funniest conversations I ever had. So Wilbur's is German. They do. My hat's getting goofy. I'm sorry. I bought. There's a local chopper builder I love to death, so I'm sporting his gear. He's a good dude, but my bill keeps going blink. But anyway, I'm not trying to look like, you know, cousin whatever off of Dukes of Hazzard. When we were first talking about how to do this, and he said, well, I'm thinking the Neva mats, there are like flagship that they specialize in, like BMW motorcycle racing suspension from Europe, like MotoGP, you know what I mean? All that stuff. So I'm on the phone with the boss there, and he says, you know, we're talking through this, and I go, so how do people get like the Street Glide exhaust? He goes, oh, it's the same as for yours. I go, no, the shorter shocks. And he goes, I don't make those. I go, well, what do you mean? I mean, like the Street Glide / Road Glide standard or special, they sit an inch shorter than an Ultra. What's the model number for the inch shorter shock? And he goes, I don't make those. I only make the ones that you're getting. And I said, so what does someone with a Street Glide or Road Glide do? He goes, raise their bike an inch. And I'm like, but what if they don't want to? And he goes, then they have bad suspension. The most German answer I've ever heard in my life. He was like, shocks that are an inch shorter don't work, and so therefore I won't make them. That was just it. That was just his like. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. He goes, think about it. The bike that you buy, the Ultra, is the long distance motorcycle that Harley Davidson makes. It is engineered to get on the highway and do 1,000-mile days. Like, that's what it's made to do. What do they do on that bike? They lift the suspension because of weight, because of actual wearing you out. They want more travel, a softer ride. That's what they do. He's like, why on earth would you buy a motorcycle that has a bad suspension system engineered into it? Like, you ride at that height because that's the proper height. Yes, sir. That's anything to say. I'm like, okay.
You win.
Yeah. Oh, so Lori says the suspension technology is $700. Yeah, I mean that's a lot less expensive. I mean, I have to say I doubt they're going to be as good as some others for half the price. They just, you know, but I'm sure I guarantee they're better than stock. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because stock Harley shocks are a joke. So,
oh, they will beat you and abuse you.
Mm-hmm. Are you still the air ride on your bike, or were they coil over, or what?
Yeah, still the air ride.
But it's different air ride than what they were talking about earlier. But yeah, the seals blow in those things, and they just settle down, and you're sitting on no suspension.
Yeah, I mean, mine, just before I got it, my dad had changed them because his buddy had a street glide, and they just put, I don't remember which brand. So they actually took the rear shocks off the street glide and put them on my road glide just to give, because, you know, guy with short legs, it kind of helps out. So I mean, they were a newer set, but I am looking in the future to get rid of them and upgrade.
It's funny. Who someone says, oh, Sparky says it helps shorter people. Absolutely true. And we had that conversation when I was talking to the guy from Wilbur's. I said, but some people like their bike an inch shorter for like height, you know, so they can be flat footed on the ground. And his answer was, tell them to get a shorter seat. like get a seat that lowers them down. Don't sacrifice the suspension on your bike. Get a seat that's an inch shorter. I'm like, okay. Just, you know.
And that's where, I mean, mine, everything fit perfect. Then, you know, now since I've gone to the wild ass, you know, it's like, you know, I'm up there a little bit, but I'll tell you what, the comfort of that thing is worth it. And,
I like the wild ass cushions. The huge fan, because I like the fact that it's an option. You know, like you can deflate it and put it in the bag, and then you're going on a long trip. So put a little air in that sucker, throw it onto your tush and roll. Like, it's not an installation; it's a cushion you put on your rear. You know, like, I think those are cool,
and they make a hell of a difference, especially if you're doing some long miles. Man, they're impressive, and like I said, it doesn't take much air whatsoever in them. You can literally blow it up in your mouth, put it on.
People think you're blowing them up, and they like inflate the whole thing, and it'll hurt you actually that way. You want very little air in there, really.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you can blow it up all the way, put it on your bike, sit down, and then let some out and let it contour to your own fucking house and enjoy it.
They're cool. They're cool. They make a lot of they save your tailbone. If you're someone like me, I've had tailbone trouble since I broke it years ago. So makes a huge difference.
Oh, it did for my wife. That was her problem. She'd ride you know, I mean, I had the Harley touring seat, but still put so much pressure on her tailbone. We went to the wild asses, you know, for her and me, and man, it made a huge difference.
Someone just said the other day, we're talking about suspension. I was reading the side chat. What do you think of the Wilbur's front springs? And I was like, they're still in a box. Like, I did the rear, which is most of it, and they told me that's 80% of it. But I don't know why this is, but I have a mental block about getting into my forks. I don't know. Seriously, like, I don't know what it is. There's not much in a bike I won't do. Forks is one of them. Like, I'll do brakes, brake lines, bleed them, all that, but I don't know why. I just like, nah, I don't want to get into the forks. It's so weird because I have friends that are like, what the hell? Like, but I think what I'm going to do is it's on that extent. My bike has that service plan where the oil changes are prepaid or something like that. So I think next time it needs its service, which is pretty soon, I'll just have them do that when they've got it. Like, just drop the damn things in there. Because $300-400? I tell you, I know that's a lot of money for labor. I mean, but for my sanity, I just don't want to get into the forks. It's weird, I know.
Yeah, I did a set of forks on my old Honda Sabre years ago, and they are intimidating. I mean, plus, you know, you got to compress the spring, trying to get the cap back on, and yeah, I don't know. That's probably one thing that I'm not super comfortable with myself, is wanting to fuck with the forks.
It's weird. I don't know. I've done apes a million times, and brake calipers, brake rotors, brake lines, you know, which is a pretty big deal, you know, messing with brakes. I haven't gotten into the motor yet. I've pledged that when I stage 2 my Ultra that I'm going to do it myself. I've watched the install videos a billion times, and I'm like, there's nothing on there I can't do. This is not that scary. I'm going to do it. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to document the whole thing. It might be hilarious because I'm an idiot and I'll drop a damn wrench in the motor or something like that. But, you know, like, somehow I'll find a way to screw it up, you know, but.
Where's the 1/2-inch socket? Oh, shit.
Oh, boy. You turn the wheel and it goes clunk.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
That's all part of, the fun part, right? I mean, if a guy is, feels confident, whatnot, is, the reward of being able to not just save yourself some money, but, be able confident and do the work to your own bike. And, you can look back and say, you know what, I did that. I built that. I put this on. I've done all this stuff. And, just a little bit of reward you get from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like I had when I did the wheels thing, it was actually Buffalo when I put the wheels on my bike. I've done wheels a bunch of times. And it's not hard, it's really not. Swapping the wheels on your bike is not a big deal. And it was Buffalo, who's very capable, was like, I've never done wheels on a bike, and I think I might do it now. I was like, I took that as, if you can do it, I know anyone can do it. I got that. I figured out that whole thing from the comment that, if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's truth,
Oh yeah. I mean, make sure you got, grease your bearings up good and whatnot, or, whether you're doing the tires yourself too, or, have them put on somewhere else, or however you want to work it.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty fortunate. Like our shop up at my dad's place, we got the bike lift, we got our tire changer. So, we do our own tires, and, we got the nice lift to do the maintenance and everything we want on our bikes. And, pretty fortunate to have a good little nice setup up at my dad's place.
Mm-hmm. All I've got is the bike jack, but it's a good jack. But I don't have a full lift, but I don't know. I don't think that it would matter. If we're doing a cam, you need to be able to spin the rear wheel freely anyway to feel the valve location. So I don't know. I'm just gonna do it.
I'm just spoiled because Dad actually recently bought the new one. His has got the air power now, so we don't got to sit there and jack it by hand. But it'll go up like 4 feet in the air. So bring up what you want, pull up your chair next to it, and dive in. He's even got the side skirts that go on it. So if you're working on quads or whatnot, you pull the quad up on it, and it is a pretty sharp lift.
I don't have the room. I just don't. What I need is a 12-car garage and a 1-bedroom apartment attached to it. That's really what I need, to be practical for my life. But, families and all, you have to provide them with bedrooms.
Oh, I know. I built a 3-car garage like 12 years ago, and it's too small. There's too much shit in it.
In my subdivision, they built a house that one side, it has a 2-car on one side and another 1-car on the other. Like the same house has like 2. And I'm like, man, the 1-car could be for whatever they want to put in. And that 2-car could just be for bikes and tools. Like that might work. But then I'm like, that's not big enough. Like the overflow would eventually in the 1-car, And then I thought it'd be the one situation where you'd be walking back and forth between your garages because the goddamn 10mm socket was on this side.
Yeah.
Back and forth with crap, it would happen.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That is kind of an interesting idea, though. Doing one on either side. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd never seen it before, but you look at the house, and I'm like, are those condos? It's one house, but it's got 2 garages.
That's freaking interesting.
Yeah,
not a bad idea.
Florida man stuff.
I want to move on. Detached, and then it more or less became like our private bar. I mean, we got the pool table out there, the beer fridge, the old Pepsi machine, and it just became our hangout years ago. All the neon beer signs, but there's room for, got the 47 wheelies by the door, and then the bikes are parked there, and it just became more of the hangout than the shop. But you know what? We've had a lot of great memories. It's a lot of fun.
We live in a HOA subdivision like you find South Florida's are all the same. But about 5 miles away is Loxahatchee, which, as it sounds, is an unregulated area. You can kind of do whatever you want. There's like a horse ranches out there and stuff. And it's your last bastion of pure freedom in South Florida. Like you have the right to bear arms, the right to arm bearers out there. I mean, you can do whatever the hell you want on your own property in Loxahatchee. And that was our 10-year plan. But having lived in this house for 3 years, ready to escalate the 10-year plan sooner. Like, I don't like neighbors. I don't want anyone around me. I don't want to look at people. Like, I just want to be I want a little house, for us to live in comfortably. And then I want a giant detached pole barn that I can, air condition. And I want a urinal. It's important that not a bathroom. I want a urinal out open in the corner. And that's what it's going to be like in there. I may have to put an actual bathroom in for the missus, but anyway.
That was kind of my plan. did the house. It's like, hey, we're gonna be here 10 years and we're gonna sell it. Well, we're going on 22 years, and like I said, I built the detached pole barn. I got a 24 by 36, shop out back, and it's not big enough.
That's cool. That's real cool. Yeah. Paul, 3-car garage with an apartment above. There you go.
Heck yeah. And if you think that's big enough, double it, because that's what you're going to need.
Exactly. That's why the idea of we had talked for a long time before we bought this house. We talked about building a metal building and living in that, right? So I wouldn't even be the first in my family to do something like that. My sister bought a 1920s restaurant in San Antonio downtown, and that's her home. What the hell is going on here? Look at that. There you go. That's so she bought a 1920s restaurant downtown San Antonio, and it still had a stage from when it had live bands, and that's their home. They built bedrooms inside it. It's been gutted mostly, but some of the still historic stuff's there. So I was like, I want to pour a slab and build a metal building inside on that slab, and I want to be able to put my RV inside, my bikes, my cars, everything inside, and then I'll build out a home inside the building so that when you open the door, you're like, holy crap, I'm in a nice house. But when you walk out where the family room is, it's a concrete building with a projector and a giant screen. You know what I mean? Like that's what I want to have. And I started doing the math, and holy shit, that got expensive real fast. I mean, I was talking before the cost of the land, which land in South Florida is insane. $50,000 for the slab, another $50,000 for the well, another $50,000 for everything was $50,000. Like that was just a magic number. Another $50,000 for power, and I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars into this thing without even having a piece of dirt to put it on yet. And I'm like, that's it. We're gonna have to go the old fashioned, buy a, what in St. Louis we call a stick house, but they're all concrete down here because of hurricanes. But
well, it's like I'd met this old time guy once when I was doing my shop where I wanted to build. He's like, think of the size you think is going to work. He goes, even say if it's 24 by 24, do you think that's going to work for you? Double it. He goes, that's the best rule of thumb. Build any garage, what you think is going to work, and then double that.
Is it not true that once you're that far in, the 24 by 24, the cost per square foot doesn't exponentially increase? Am I wrong there? Like, no, it's not like doubling it's going to cost twice as much. No. Yeah.
Especially like with a pole barn, because just a few more poles. Literally, I mean, the most expensive part of a pole barn, literally, like I said, is concrete.
Yeah. Yeah, this was $50,000 for, I can't remember what the size. I'd gone pretty far into it. A buddy of mine is an electrician, and has just been around, construction his whole life, and best friend since childhood. And we sat on the phone for hours talking about what it would take and what it would really take, because I'm an idiot, and then pulling some numbers, and I'm just like, a sticker shock isn't even the word. I was like, holy crap. I have a step sister down in Arkansas, though, they're brilliant. They bought beautiful piece of land in Searcy, Arkansas, which is not far from Little Rock, and bought a beautiful piece of land, bought an old mobile home for, I think they paid $2,500 for it, put it on the land, lived in the mobile home, acted as their own GC, built a incredible home, wraparound porch. He goes up back with his rifle, drinks coffee and fires his rifle on the back porch of the house. Just hunts like he's taking deer down on his own land. Like it's just a beautiful home, 3 bedrooms, et cetera. And didn't pay cash for it. There were some loans involved, but very little compared to buying a house. And then they moved into the house from the mobile home and then sold the mobile home for $3,000. Like he lived in it for several years and made a profit when he sold it, and then moved into their house. And I think their, total mortgage was less than 100 on a house worth 5 times that at least, So they're just smarter than me,
Yeah. Well, that's how I did my shop. I mean, had, the pole set. I had an electrical, company come in and feed the breaker box. And, my dad and my uncle, myself, we did all the rest, sided it, did all the wiring and everything. And, save yourself some money. Mm-hmm. And I mean, doing wiring electrical actually is not as hard as what someone might think. But, the fun part when I did mine, I had when I did my ceiling lights, it's like I did the whole electrical permit, which was like pennies on the dollar. And it's like I wasn't really worried about having the permit signed off. I didn't care. I'm like, what are they going to do? Well, the county calls, hey, you have 5 days left on your permit. Can we come sign off your electrical? Are you ready? I'm like, oh, shit. No, I was nervous as hell because I did it on myself, literally, with, a little bit of help. And I'm like, all right. They come out, he's checking everything and, compliment all the work. It's, hey, sweet. And he gets up in the rafters. And the way I did the wiring for my lights is I'd ran the grounds together and then grounded the very last light of all the circuit for all the lights in my ceiling. He's like, oh, you can't do that. He's like, you're going to have to fix all those and ground every light individually. He goes, then call me back and I'll come back and reinspect it. I'm like, fuck. All right. So I spent like 6 hours of ceiling fixing because I did a junction box every light. I get them all done. Call him the next day. Hey, you can come back and inspect it. I'm ready. The guy comes out to my shop. So he fixed all those. I'm like, yep, perfect. And signs it off. I'm like, you're not even going to fucking look. I was pissed.
He must have thought there was a legit safety issue. So, whatever. But if he just believes you, good dude to believe you, and not check you. I remember my first new home I built through a home builder in St. Louis, and my next door neighbor, before I'd even moved in, was an old dude that we ended up being one of my best pals. And I show up to preview the house and the land. I'm sorry, they hadn't even dug the hole yet. And he comes out and he goes, "Oh, your new neighbor." We're bullshitting for a while. He goes, "Hey man, tell you what you need to do." He goes, "I'm gonna call you when I see a contractor truck at your house, and I'm gonna tell you who's there. And then you run out here, and then you tell them what you really want, and bring a couple hundos with you." And and then he goes, "Yeah, that'll work." And for 6 months, he would go, "Electrician's here," and I'm like, "Bam!" And I'd run out there, and I would go, "Hey, so adding some more lights in the garage, because the home builder's 400% or 500% marking this stuff up if you do any changes or any additions." So we did all this crap. We did all kinds of stuff. We added some drains in certain places, outlets all over the garage. I had lights everywhere in the garage. I had all this stuff. Theater surround system in the ceiling and all this crap. We're doing the final walkthrough, and the builder was irate by the time we got through with the house because he was just like, "Where the fuck do these lights come from?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's weird. It's strange." And I'm just playing dumb. And he's just like, he was mad because I'd stolen basically thousands of dollars from him by having it done on the side.
That's awesome.
And paid cash for all of it. But
awesome.
I thought he would just not care. He cared.
Oh, well, you made out in the end. Heck with it.
But what are you going to do? Not close?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you want to not close on the house? Or, you got some Russians. You got some Russians. Why? The Russians are in every live stream these days.
This is true. Whatever. Just send me your vodka.
You're right. Nah. Send me some bourbon.
I don't know. Bourbon ain't bad. I love vodka though too. I don't know. Well, shoot, man. Thanks for coming on doing a milepost tonight, there, Monkey. It's been a lot of fun shooting the shit and kind of, hearing how you got into everything.
Anytime, man. We are trapped at home a lot of the time, so we like to jump on live streams, hang out, and comment, even the side chat, whatever, and have a good time. So,
heck yeah. No, it's been fun. I know trying to correlate with your schedule. I mean, Monday through Friday, I never know when to get home with my job, so trying to work things out and get you on has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun, getting to hang out and talk with you.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning on. It's been a good time. Don't forget, hey, like and follow, subscribe to the channel for more, and stay tuned for next week's Milepost. We'll be coming up on 53. Hey, you guys have fun, ride safe, enjoy the road.